Right, good evening, everyone. I'd like to call to order this Milton School Committee meeting on February 1st, 2023. Our first item on the agenda is to approve this evening's agenda. Does anyone have any changes or deletions to this evening's agenda? Okay, seeing none, we will move on to the superintendent's update. I'll turn it over to Assistant Superintendent Pavlicek.
Yeah, so first I want to apologize. Superintendent Sheehan is not able to be here tonight due to a last minute issue. So she has sent over her happenings report. So let me just say, reading her report, speaking as Janet, although with grayer hair. I want to begin by thanking the school committee for your continued support over the past months. I've been so fortunate to serve with each and every one of you, and I've admired your dedication and advocacy for excellence in education. I'm grateful to have had another opportunity to serve the students and family of the Milton Public Schools. It's been a pleasure to work alongside Dr. Garth McKinney, Dr. Glenn Pavlicek, Amy Dexter, central office staff, and our amazing leadership team of principals, department heads, and curriculum coordinators. As Dr. McKinney steps into his new role as interim superintendent, I am confident that the district is in very good hands, and I wish him all the best. As you know, Dr. Burrows will become the next superintendent of the Milton Public Schools effective July 1st. It was wonderful to have him visiting us for the last few days. He's had the opportunity to work on the transition with central office administration, meet several employees through his travels, and even do some reading at Collicott as part of World Read Aloud Day. Dr. Burrows also had the opportunity to visit the Cunningham, Tucker, and Glover schools during his visit, where many exciting World Read Aloud activities were taking place to celebrate literacy. I'm pleased to report that all 6 of our schools have just completed crisis team training with Maria Trotzi, author and nationally renowned founder of the Good Grief program at Boston Medical Center. We have in place crisis plans and protocols that will better prepare us to support students, staff, and families as emergency situations arise. In preschool updates, the preschool pre-registration has been underway since January 12th, and an electronic random lottery was held for programs where interest exceeded seats available on January 27th. The 112 families who completed the pre-registration by the deadline of January 26th will be notified of the lottery results tomorrow at noon. Preschool registration will take place February 8th through the 22nd for those families who are awarded a slot. Kindergarten updates. Thank you to all the families who are able to attend the kindergarten information night last Thursday. As of today, we've had 303 families complete the pre-registration form. Online registration will take place March 1st through March 15th. All families who have completed the pre-registration will receive an email from our family outreach liaison, Marty O'Keefe McKenna, February 28th, with all the details and steps to complete the registration. We're excited to welcome the class of 2036.
Oh my gosh.
A few other notes. Tomorrow night at 6:30 is the CPAC presentation on tiered review process. On Friday at 7 p.m., the Milton High School Theater presentation is in the Milton High School auditorium. Next Wednesday is the annual open budget hearing for the school system, scheduled as a hybrid meeting at the Council on Aging and via Zoom at 7 p.m. Monday the 13th is, of course, a special town meeting, and our next school committee meeting is February 15th. So those are the announcements from Superintendent Sheehan. At this point, I'd like to turn it over to Dr. McKinney, who has an update following some questions last time on discipline.
Thank you. Charlene Roach sent you an email with 2 attachments. Included there is an example of one of the incident reporting forms from Collicott School. You can see these online on our website. So I included a sample for the committee. And then the other attachment is a spreadsheet of an overview of the incident and reporting data. As you can see, the first part gives a breakdown of the types of reports we received, then by school, that at what point during the 2022 year, and then whether or not happened on the school grounds. This will be the first part of our update to the committee. Now we're going to have another update at the next committee meeting. This shows a window into the reporting side. And after using this form for a year, we're in a good place to evaluate the data, as well as the process. And we have some refinements that we're going to recommend. I've been working with the Director of Analytics and the Director of Equity, Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion. So some of the challenges we've run into, we've noticed so far, is that since the reporting is anonymous, they may not be filling in everything in the forms. We may not be capturing all the information. We're looking for a remedy for that. And if people are already making an effort to fill out this form, we want to capture as much information as possible so we can better determine what steps the schools or district should take moving forward. We've also been some revisions to the form. We've looked at some other forms from some other districts and done some compare and contrast. So we'll be looking for some recommendations going forward with this information. We certainly want to increase the accessibility to this form for students and staff. We're considering printing out QR codes or other opportunities to direct them to the online form instead of trying to capture both on paper and the online reporting forms. We have one central collection. And we're also refining the follow-up process to ensure that we're capturing data in a timely fashion after each alleged incident with the building principals. So more a consistent procedure across the 6 schools that we can monitor going forward. So with that, this is kind of our first phase of the report. Our next report will give you a window into what the principals do after receiving these reports and what some of the outcomes are and the findings in terms of the level of discipline and some of the follow-up that happens there. But we're reaching out to those 6 principals and having them give us that information. And the other thing we're also looking into is obviously with the move to PowerSchool, is there an opportunity to put some sort of reporting form that's in the student information management system that may be conducive to all our internal partners, so students, parents, teachers, but the public facing part is a challenge. So we don't want to have 2 different types of reports. So we're trying to remedy that as well. So again, I've been working with them for the past month, and over the next couple of weeks, I'll circle back with a further update, but I'm happy to entertain any questions or recommendations. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. McKinney. Member White?
So, Dr. McKinney, I just had a couple of questions. You said that the reporting was anonymous and it's online, and I'm just wondering, particularly when I look at the elementary reports, I'm thinking, are parents filling this form out with their child? And I'm kind of wondering, how that happens. You may not know yet, given the fact that it's anonymous. And then the other question I had was, are we also getting reports where a parent might be calling into the principal directly and saying, this incident happened with my child, and I would like you to follow up with that, or something like that?
So I'll take the second one first. I do believe there could be instances where parents or guardians or community members call the school directly and the principals handle it quickly as possible, and it may not be captured in this data. So that would be part of the procedure going forward to make sure we're all the same data in the same place at the same time and following up in a timely manner and in accordance to policy and procedure and all the good things that our principals do. The first part is a little more challenging in that yes, there are instances where folks are identifying themselves, let's say, but there are also opportunities within the report where they remain anonymous. So we may not be able to track where the report came from, but it's our due diligence to follow up to each and every report and make sure our students are feeling safe and responsive and communicating the good steps we've taken to do investigations and report back to our parents and community members.
Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Carroll?
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. McKinney. I appreciate your presenting this in response to the request and the questions that came up recently, and doing a quick turnaround to share this with us and to frame it as, something that you're actively still looking at and will keep updating us on. I think Member White asked one of the questions I was curious about, so thank you for keeping on, looking at how we can make sure that other ways that things get reported are also being tracked. Of course, looking at this preliminary data in the context of what was shared by the coalition with those surveys, it's a mismatch, right? So this data is a drastic underreporting of what those survey represented. So of course, we're always like trying to triangulate across multiple sources of data, but that, I think the assumption that I am making is that, those higher numbers are more accurate than these lower numbers that we're seeing here, because that was an anonymous survey that was much more widely distributed. And so I appreciate that we're going to continue sort of digging into this to understand the full picture. I am noticing an interesting kind of disparity in where the reports seem to be coming from, and especially across the elementary schools. And so that leads me to wonder, a couple different things. If these are shared anonymously, I guess I'm assuming it's not possible to know whether multiple reports are coming from the same people. But that's a question I'm wondering, at a school where you see more reports, is more than one of those reports coming from the same family or the same, maybe for different incidents. So I'm just wondering whether there would ever be a way to track or understand if that's the case, maybe not. But another question I then have is sort of, and I guess this would be more in the recommendations or just wonderings for going forward, like how is the existence of this form, this resource being communicated to families? And, what are the expectations that have been shared with our leadership team for, how frequently and where and when, and, the ways that we're letting people know this exists. I know it's on the website and that's good. But kind of beyond that. So that's a question that I'm interested in kind of looking at further. And then really, of course, just at the middle school and high school, like looking for there to be additional, I guess, like awareness building that this exists, because it seems to me that there are probably definitely incidents occurring that are not being reported through this form at this point in time, based on the numbers that we saw in those surveys. So again, just interested to learn more about that. And I think that really goes for both the basis of race, which clearly came up in the data we saw, as well as sexual orientation, which was also really flagged, but is really barely being represented here at all. So thanks a lot for helping us keep this conversation going.
Mhm.
Thank you. Dr. McKinney?
No, thank you for that feedback, Dr. Carroll. On one hand, yes, this work is fluid, right? We work in elementary and middle schools and kids report things, and then we want to intervene right away and handle it. But we got to find a way to capture those instances so we get closer to marrying external data with internal data. So I agree with that part. And also the second part in terms of kind of systematic and being consistent and structured. I've done work like this in other and everybody know what it is and what the guidelines are, and then going through little reviews every X number of months, as opposed to an annual review and say, this is where we are, here are the areas of strength, and here's some areas we need to work on. So I do believe we can get there. A lot of confidence in V and Claire as we kind of refine this process going forward, and then work with our building leaders.
Great, thank you. Member Ross-Denny.
Well, thank you so much for sharing this and being able to pull it together in such short order. And I just want to echo much of what Dr. Carroll said in terms of the opportunity to reflect on this, as well as some of the wonderings that I have. The only nuance that I would add is that at the secondary level, I believe there's a high likelihood that its students are self-reporting, and that's why we're getting such higher incidence reports on the survey versus what's coming through the system. And it may be to our benefit to find a way to communicate directly to the students instead of their families. I know my high school, as all of you have heard, I don't get much from my high school age children. I don't want this to be a fishing expedition, but I do want to give the district an opportunity to better understand the experiences of the students. That anonymous survey that was organized by the Milton Coalition was very helpful and very directional. But then it leaves this wondering, how do we unpack this and what do we do about it in terms of next steps? I don't expect that, especially in your interim role, and we will be slightly understaffed until June, but I'd love to hear what our plans will ultimately be for responding to what we saw in the surveys, as well as some of the recommendations that will come out of the process review that you just shared. So thank you for taking the lead on this and sharing it with us. I don't like to add things to people's plates because I know what my day is like, but I appreciate the fact that you took the time to share this and you were very candid about what the outcomes have been.
And if I could just add two more things. I do think we're looking at a mixed method approach of not only looking at the reporting data, but relying on some student surveys. And then Claire and Adina have done some really important work with focus groups with kids. So is there a way to capture that and triangulate all this information? So I like where this group is going, but we have a little bit of work to do. So we will keep the committee apprised of our work going forward.
Excellent, thank you, Dr. McKinney. Member Varghese.
Thank you so much, Dr. McKinney. I want to echo some of the comments that have already been made, and a few of my questions have already been answered, and I appreciate all the work that you have put towards pulling this together in such a short time. I did have, I mean, obviously there is, you know, the data shows different numbers from what we saw in the coalition's report. But, and I am glad that we're looking at different data sets to kind of get more of a complete picture. And I appreciate that we're kind of taking this feedback. I did notice on the form, is the form anonymous as well? And sorry, I do have a couple of questions. So my first question is, I wanted to know if the form was anonymous because it does go into a little bit of detail. And does that deter people from filling it out? And then my next question, I just kind of want to piggyback on something Dr. Carroll said. If are there, like, how do you track, like, if it's the same parents making, you know, the incident reports, or if it's the same students, like, how are you tracking those? And I would love to know, like, and I do want to, like, not deter parents from making reports, because I do want to make sure that our families are taken very seriously, and we do take every incident seriously. So I don't want to deter people from doing that. So, so I want, you know, I'm not saying like, hey, report everything, like, you know, but I think if there is something serious, and I'm glad this, you know, if there is something serious and the parents are calling into the school and the principals are handling it, I think that's phenomenal. But I also saw the discrepancy at the elementary level, and I would love to see follow-up on what's being done and what could potentially be leading to those numbers. Thank you.
Yeah, so to your first question, I believe it's, excuse me, part of question 9, it does say it's optional for all other reporters except our faculty. So we are looking into that in terms of anonymous reporting, where people feel safe and comfortable reporting things without fear of retribution or reprisal. The second piece, just to be clear, the principals are working on following up with this incident data in terms of was there an investigation done by the principal, and what was the subsequent follow-up, and give us information on that and other comments. And the good news is I believe our administrators and teachers all know our kids really well. And even though it can be anonymous, sometimes there are patterns and themes that go through here where students and others are in conflict or in challenge. And we don't want to read too much into the data, but a lot of our policy does talk about a safety plan or an intervention plan that's put in place to remedy the situation and to monitor it going forward.
Okay, sorry, I had one more question,
Sure.
there was a part, when I was looking at the numbers, some were like not categorized. Is it like, should we be adding more categories? Is it something that didn't fit into those, or do you think they just kind of left it blank?
To provide some context, these are email me forms, and the sample form, if you were to fill it out at school, the school would designate where that form goes to via email. So we go to the principal, the assistant principal, maybe a guidance counselor, an adjustment counselor, maybe the classroom teacher. So we're looking at ways to strengthen that piece when there is a report filed, so we can do follow-up. And it's currently hard to identify some of the reports that are in there without knowing what the investigation was and the follow-up, because the reporting is just a little inherent and vague, and it's happened over the course of this year. So we don't have all the specifics around when that incident happened, where it happened, who was involved. So I think further conversation with the principals and the APs, they know this work really well and can give us a better window into where to label those sort of incidents in what bucket going forward.
Great, thank you so much.
Thank you. Dr. Miranda.
Yes, thank you, Dr. McKinney, for giving us this information. I think it's very helpful. I've just had some questions around, and I wasn't around in terms of when this was designed, et cetera, but wondering if you've looked sort of at the survey design, and if it's a drop-down menu, right, that folks are not able to sort of go on to the next thing, like you're actually asking them to categorize to some extent sort of what they're reporting so that we get better data. And also wondering if we've considered actually adding demographics in terms of, are you a student? Are you a parent? I saw just very quick glance at the survey that there is none of that. Even if it's an anonymous survey, you can still at least say, I am the student, or I am the parent, or I am, the parent of somebody else, who knows, right? But just in something so that we can actually sort of have some answers, I think, to the questions that have been posed. They're great questions. But I do think it's a great start to being able to collect some more of this information. And I do hope that we just sort of look at it. And obviously you're starting to see patterns in some of the schools have more incidents. And I don't know if it's a matter of like more parents or more students in that school know about this reporting form and others don't. But it does raise a lot of questions for us to contemplate and think about making changes both to the form and then thinking about what we can do in the as a community to address some of these issues that we're seeing, not only here with this data, but also obviously with the survey that the high school and middle schoolers took.
Yes, thank you. The very short answer to all of your questions is yes. We are looking at both the nature of the questions, the workflow, if you will, of the incident reporting, as well as the platform. This is an email me. We're looking at Google Forms, as well as maybe something in PowerSchool. We do want to get these reports at the school level quickly and timely and ensure a follow-up. So Claire has reached out to her colleagues across Massachusetts, and B has done some analysis on the workflow. So I do think we'll get to a better refined version of this when we circle back in a few weeks.
Great. Well, thank you very much, Dr. McKinney, for sharing this information with us. And it really does indeed sound like a work in progress that, a commitment to doing that work. And thank you and your team for doing that. And we look forward to hearing more as the work goes on. Thank you very much. Does that do it for our superintendent's report?
Yes, it does.
Okay, very good. So next we go on to citizen speak. We have 15 minutes set aside for anyone from community who would like to share their thoughts with us tonight. And you can just raise your hand in the online function, and we will recognize you and promote you so that we can hear your thoughts. Just give people a moment to raise hands. I do not see any hands raised at this time, so I think we will move along on our agenda. Next item on the agenda is a chair's report, and I just would like to take this opportunity to share some thoughts that I've had about Janet Sheehan, who is leaving us at the end of this week, as stepping back into retirement, and with her family, and just really the feeling of gratitude that I think we all feel, and Janet's willingness to come out of her retirement to step in as our interim superintendent during this challenging time in our schools. We're thankful for Janet's commitment to the Milton Public Schools, to the families, the students, the staff, and faculty, for Janet's graciousness, kindness, and good humor in her interactions with all of us. And we wish her very well in her retirement, and that she will keep in touch with us. We are all very, very thankful for Janet's time in this interim role. We're also very appreciative for Garth McKinney's willingness to step into this role as our interim superintendent during this transition period between Janet Sheehan and Peter Burrows, and very thankful for Garth's kindness and good humor during a challenging period since he began in Milton Public Schools, but very grateful for his willingness to step up and lead us during this period. And we also are very thankful for Glenn Pavlicek's willingness to come out of his retirement. I mean, we really are all very fortunate to have this wonderful leadership team that has been doing so much to guide the district during this time. And Glenn Pavlicek's deep knowledge of how the town and state government function, his warm relationships that he's developed with town leaders over the years has certainly helped us during this time as well. And it was also very nice to have Dr. Peter Burrows here with us for the last couple of days for a visit and to join us at the warrant committee meeting last night to discuss our annual budget, and very thankful for Peter's enthusiasm for coming to lead Milton Public Schools and his experience and commitment to the work ahead to make Milton Public Schools great. So we are all very grateful for these four leaders, and we look forward to the future. The future looks very bright indeed. And on that note, I would like to make a motion to appoint Dr. Garth McKinney as the interim superintendent of the Milton Public Schools. Do we hear a
I'll
second?
second that. Second.
Thank you. I'll take a roll call vote. Dr. Miranda,
Yes.
Member Varghese,
Yes.
Member White,
Yes.
Dr. Carroll,
Yes.
Member Ross Denny,
Yes.
And Chair Rosemary, and yes, that is unanimous. Congratulations, Dr. McKinney, and we look forward to working with you in this new role. Let's just take a look here. Let me find the agenda again. Okay, next on our agenda is Policy Subcommittee. Turn it over to Dr. Carroll.
Thank you. So we tonight will just be conducting a second reading of JIC, Student Discipline Policy. Does anyone have any questions or comments that you wanted to raise from last time on this policy? Okay, in that case, I'll make a motion. Let me get it. I make a motion to approve the second reading of policy JIC, student discipline. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. I'll do a roll call vote. Dr. Miranda,
Yes.
Member Varghese,
Yes.
Chair Rosemary,
Yes,
Member White,
Yes,
Member Ross Denny,
Yes.
and I am also yes. Thank you very much.
good. Thank you. Thank you.
And that, yeah, concludes policy for tonight. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you for all your work on bringing that policy for us. And it's just excellent, excellent work. Next on our agenda is Finance Subcommittee.
okay.
What?
So I want to thank everybody, the entire leadership team, as well as the entire school committee attended the warrant committee meeting last night. And I thought it was a really great team effort. I appreciate everyone's participation and the discussion and response to the questions. We'll see, we probably will hear from them again and maybe have to go back either with their subcommittee on the schools or the entire committee as we get closer to the budget season culmination. And so we will, I have two warrants, vendor warrants to get approved tonight. Vendor warrant number 28 in the amount of $385,233.16, and vendor warrant number 29 in the amount of $200,000, $486.62. Can I have a second on those vendor warrants?
Second.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Miranda. So I'll take a roll call. Chair Rosemary,
Yes,
Dr. Carroll,
Yes.
Member Varghese,
Yes.
Member Ross Denny,
Yes.
Dr. Miranda,
Yes.
and myself is a yes. And that concludes finance for this evening.
very good. Thank you. Next on our agenda is Health and Wellness Advisory Committee report.
Thank you. So the Health and Wellness Advisory Committee met last week. Just a reminder, Member Varghese and I serve on this committee this year, and it is comprised of several teachers, school leaders, central office leaders. We also have members of the Board of Health from the town and the coalition, including student members. And we had a really good discussion this past week that was primarily that we spent most of our time exploring updates to the health curriculum and the pilot, which is underway this year. So currently in Milton, we're piloting something called the Michigan model, which is a nationally recognized comprehensive evidence-based pre-K-12 curriculum, which is built around skills-based instruction. We learned, so this curriculum has been piloted at the middle and high school levels. This year, just recently has begun to be piloted at the elementary level across our third grades, using a 10 lesson unit. So we heard about that from Principal Concannon, who shared sort of some of how that implementation is going at the Collicutt. But just to give you an sort of feel for some of what this new curriculum includes, the three focus areas are social emotional health. So that really supports our pillar around safe and supportive schools. It includes creating positive friendships, and identifying positive role models, topics like that. The next portion of lessons focuses on nutrition and physical activity, sort of beginning to teach students about kinds of physical activity and how to not be tricked by advertising when it comes to different kinds of foods, things like that. And the final part of the elementary curriculum being piloted addresses personal health and wellness around sort of hygiene, and, you know, saying goodbye to germs, and keeping clean. So those are some of the topics that are currently being rolled out. They're being taught by a gym teacher who's teaching these lessons at all of the elementary schools. So the feedback that we got so far on that was mixed. I think one thing that's been noticed is some overlap with the second step program. And that's because currently the lessons being taught are in that social emotional health portion of the curriculum, which of course is related to what happens with PBIS and second step. So I think that's something that was shared they're looking at, because of course we all know there's limited time in the day to do health curriculum, and making sure that to the extent it's repeating things, that's helpful and necessary for students to learn the information rather than unnecessary or somehow redundant. So that's something that they're looking at, and they're going to continue to collect feedback and information from the teachers as they kind of continue exploring the curriculum. At the high school, so at this meeting, we didn't have representation from the Pierce Middle School, so we were less clear on how exactly this curriculum pilot is going at that level. We'll hopefully get updates on that at our next meeting, but we did hear a little bit about how it's been going at the high school, where there seems to be a little bit less of a kind of consistent push to implement this new curriculum. So there are still some lessons in health curriculum being used from the old curriculum, and the new Michigan model lessons are being less consistently implemented. So that's another piece of the role pilot that they're going to continue to kind of look at, to understand, you know, the benefits and drawbacks of this new curriculum, you know, as we're deciding whether and how to implement it more widely. It was really valuable to get the students' perspectives, who were able to share, you know, their experiences with some of the content, and really appreciated their voices there through the coalition. It was also discussed, and this is an important point for us to kind of have on our radar, I think. It was discussed that we need some better vertical alignment in general around our health curriculum in the district, because as we're hearing reports of repetition across different grade levels, but yet also some like missing pieces, where certain important information is not necessarily getting through. It would be better if we could just understand more comprehensively, like what's being taught, where, when, and why. Two issues that were raised. One is the missed learning during COVID. Over these past few years, we have cohorts of students that just did not have health class when, during hybrid and whatnot. It was understandably less of a focus. So there's a need to catch up students who missed out on important information. That's something that's being worked on. But really importantly, it was raised to us that there's a desire to look back at the role of a district-wide health director. We do not currently have a person who oversees the health curriculum across the district, but there was a person in that role who that position was eliminated a few years ago. And I think what we heard from a wide range of folks, including the coalition, as well as our educators and administrators at elementary and high school, is that it's challenging right now, where the people who are leading this work have like other full-time jobs as teachers, adjustment counselors, and there's nobody really able to focus on the big picture. And so I think that's obviously something we're not looking at for next year. But I do think that as Dr. Burrows enters the district, it would make sense for him to kind of take a look at that as far as our needs. And this reminds me of our conversation with the warrant committee last night. Like, what do we really need? Not trying to do our bare minimum and like get by and sort of stretch with what little we have, but really like what would allow us to do the best we can for students. And I think taking a closer look at this would be wise. So that's something we'll continue talking about next few months at this advisory committee, but that's going to be important. Please close the door. I'm in the middle of the report. Sorry, Julia's. Okay, so yeah, I'll try to wrap up, but that was what we spent most of our time talking about. Just to say, the coalition does have the ability to secure funds to help us evaluate our health curriculum. That was something that we opted not to do a couple of years ago, apparently, when that was offered. But I think we should probably keep that in mind and see if we want to work with them to, look at the rollout of this. However, with inconsistent rollout and a fairly limited pilot at this point, we also want to, of course, be mindful that we need to think about how we would collect data, what that data would be. The other updates, we heard again about the SEL Advisory Committee. So Jenny Beliveau serves on the Health and Wellness Advisory Committee, and she shared more about the Calm Classroom Professional Development, which we've heard about at our Safe and Supportive Schools Forum. But now all the teachers, my understanding is all the teachers have now been trained in that program, and she is working with each school and how they're going to do their rollout. I think the middle school rollout started this week. Communication is going out to families at different schools as they roll out this unique program. And actually, when I visited Glover the other week, it was cool because I told some people I got to be in a classroom that was doing Calm Classroom randomly. It was in French. It was so cool. I really could see the benefits of it. Like the whole feel of the room, just I appreciated it. I was like, oh, wow, I feel calm. Like it was great. And it was like 2 minutes. It was really cool. So that's good progress. The mental health first aid training is also happening for 5 staff from each school. That includes teachers, counselors, and paraprofessionals. So that's underway. The last pieces, Obviously, we all know the coalition presented the findings from the YRBS and YHS reports to us. We had a snippet of that, of course, at the Equity Forum. But April 27th is going to be when the coalition will present that to the entire community. Another important event coming up is February 10th. The coalition is offering a training for youth mental health first aid as well. So those are some opportunities. A lot of people are already signed up for that. And then finally, the health department is continuing to work on its community health assessment. So that's another thing that's in process. They are conducting focus groups and interviews, and they communicated that they continue to appreciate the partnerships they have with schools. And I know that's mutual as well. So sorry to sort of go on. It was a really rich discussion. Member Varghese, do you want to add anything?
I just want to say, I know we had to postpone that meeting several times, and I really appreciate the effort that everybody put into it, and especially showing up so early in the morning on a Friday. I know it's many, many groups. And it was really good to hear the feedback on the Michigan Health Model, because I thought that was very helpful just to get the student perspective, there's a teacher perspective on the rollout, but then also hearing from the students, I thought that was really good. So it was nice to have all the voices at the table, and it really just gave us really good perspective. And I think you did a phenomenal job recapping that whole meeting. Thank you.
Thanks. Yeah, so any questions from anybody? Okay, we will keep you posted. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Carroll. And just comment that I'm really glad to hear we've got students on that committee now. That's a very important element to the work, and it's wonderful. Glad to hear they're there participating. Next on our agenda, we have Curriculum and Instruction Advisory Committee.
Yes, so the last meeting was scheduled last Tuesday, and we had the pleasure of welcoming K-12 Math Director Brian Selig, as well as the World Languages Director Zaina Hamada, and Dr. Garth McKinney, who is our liaison in central office, also attended. So Director Selig was completing the update that he gave us when we met last fall. And he shared that in terms of the Into Math elementary curriculum that was implemented this school year, he's currently in the process of collecting feedback from all of the elementary grade levels across the 4 elementary schools. He shared that he anticipates that he's going to get good and high quality feedback because he made the questions open-ended, but he also advised that, going through a lesson for the first time for an entire school year is going to be tough, especially given that you have a pacing guide that you're anticipated to complete, but it's much more difficult when it's your first time around. And he believes that in year 2, it will be a lot smoother. He also had the opportunity to share with us what is happening at the secondary level. Last school year, they piloted the integrated mathematics curriculum in 9th grade. And this school year, they've expanded the implementation to include grades 9, 10, and 11. He explained that they're still figuring out the pacing guide, but they are identifying proactively opportunities to make more efficient use of the time so they can make it through the entire curriculum. He explained that this is more robust and comprehensive and rigorous than the previous curriculum we were implementing. For those who are new to illustrative mathematics, it's considered one of the most rigorous, and in terms of covering the standards, one of the best math curriculums that you can implement. He said it's very unique from the perspective that it integrates math from more than one grade level. So instead of teaching discrete topics, it blends some of them. And he said that the content areas that are covered over those 3 years include Algebra 1, Geometry, and Algebra 2. He also explained that for Course 3 Honors Math, Milton will be piloting the AP Pre-Calculus course in its stead, the 11 honors course that it's teaching this year. The AP Pre-Calculus course is brand new to College Board, and he believes that it's well aligned with what we've been teaching before, except for the fact that our students will now be eligible for college credit. He also explained that he recognizes that there needs to be more college-bearing opportunities for students who are on the college prep path, and that ultimately he's going to pursue dual enrollment opportunities similar to what we improved last school year for AP statistics. And what else? Oh, we also talked about the breadth of AP classes that are available to our students, specifically in math. So in addition to the AP pre-calculus course, as I mentioned during our forum last week, there's AP Calculus AB, AP Calculus BC, AP Computer Science, and AP Statistics. So when you think about all of the opportunities to engage in college-bearing coursework, Milton has a wide array, more than most schools have. And by adding the dual enrollment component, students who are in the college prep path will also have the opportunity to earn college credit before leaving the district. After Director Stellig left, Zaina Hamada was kind enough to give us an overview and an update essentially on what's happening in French immersion. We've received several questions from the community, specifically around the continuation of the program, the enrollment of the program, and some questions around special education. So starting with enrollment and the concerns that some families had that the French immersion program might be going away, it is not. Milton has made a significant investment, whether it's in teaching staff, materials, professional development, and we're not going to abandon a program that's been this successful. She explained that there are families for whom their school may not have enough space, and all those families are offered the opportunity to bus their child to one of the other elementary schools. Some take the district up on that offer, and some have declined in order to stay at their home school. There's no guarantee that you'll always have a seat at your home school, but you will, for the most part, always have an opportunity if you are to participate in French immersion, if you're willing to look at the other schools as the location for that instruction. We also know that there's a space issue. She explained that traditionally there's been a single strand of French. For those of you who may not know, what it means is there's only, per grade level, there's only one French class. There is one school for which there's a significant number of students, so they have two strands, but it's almost like a bubble. That's the best analogy I can give. And at each school year, this teacher has been moving up with that group of students. It's not an ideal scenario because essentially that teacher every year is learning that new level, but it's been successful so far. And that teacher will continue until that class moves on. But as I mentioned, the goal is not to turn away students who want to participate in the program. She also shared that we have been piloting, we're past piloting, a program where if a student is on an IEP and is enrolled in French immersion, that there are French teachers that are serving as reading specialists at the secondary level who are actually supporting the elementary level grades. And it's been doing well. And those students that are on IEPs, their IEPs are tracked. The services that are being received in French from the reading specialists are also involved, but no student who's with an IEP that's enrolled in French immersion loses their services. In many cases, they are delivered in English, but they will all continue to receive their services. And I think that's it. And with that, are there any questions about what I shared? All right, well, thank you.
Very good. Thank you. Thank you, Member Ross Denny. Okay, next on our agenda is approval of minutes. And we have quite a few sets of minutes to approve this evening. And what I'd like to do is combine most of them into one motion. I went through to see if we were all at all of these meetings, and it looks like just the December 7th meeting, it showed Dr. Miranda was not at that meeting. So I think we'll vote on those minutes first, and then the rest of them, since we were all there, we can vote on all those together, if that's okay. So let's start with the December 7th minutes. I'd like to make a motion to approve the minutes from December 7th, Milton School Committee meeting. We have a second, please.
Second.
Second,
Thank you. Okay, do a roll call vote. Member Varghese,
Yes.
Member White,
yes.
Dr. Carroll,
Yes.
Member Ross Denny,
Yes.
Dr. Miranda,
Abstain, right?
yes,
I was not at that meeting.
that's right.
I
that's
just
right.
was confirming that I was not at that meeting.
Yeah, yeah. And Chair Rose Marin, yes, so that's 501. And then we have the remaining sets of minutes. Make a motion to approve the minutes from the December 21st, January 6th, January 11th, and January 18th Milton School Committee meetings. Do I hear a second?
Second,
Thank you. And
So-
ah,
To do
yeah.
this.
yes, yes, Dr. Carroll.
I did notice one typo
Mhm.
in one of the meeting minutes that technically could change the meaning of something, so.
Hmm.
Okay, if I just say that one.
Yeah, go ahead.
It's just, it's the
Which-
December,
Which one?
the January 6th,
January 6th, okay.
page 2.
Mhm.
It's says look level 1 to level 3, I believe. But it should say took, or I think the meaning is took level 1 to level 3, level 3 to level 1.
Yeah, got it.
It would just be changing look to took.
Right.
Sorry.
Very good. Very good. Any other comments or changes before we take a vote? Okay. Hearing none, we'll move ahead. Motion is on the floor. Do a roll call vote. Dr. Miranda,
Yes.
Member Varghese,
Yes.
Member White,
yes.
Dr. Carroll,
Yes.
Member Ross Denny,
Yes.
and Chair Rose Marin, yes. Very good. Those are all approved. Next on our agenda, we have next meeting agenda items. Next week, we meet again for our 4th public forum on our budget. So that will take place at the Council on Aging. It will be a hybrid meeting. And it's my understanding from Milton Access that they have taken care of the problem that we were experiencing the last time we were there, and hopefully that should go smoothly this time. They're ready to go. February 13th, we have a town meeting, and then our next meeting after that, school committee meeting after that, is February 15th. And we have the program of studies on that agenda, and we just received that program of studies in our email this week. So if we could take a look at that prior to that meeting, that'd be great. I think that takes care of it. Oh, Member White?
So I had reached out to Bill Ritchie and asked him about coming to a school committee meeting. He thinks that the 15th would be too soon because he wants to have more information about the capital improvements that are going to be approved and what of those are related to the schools. So he asked if he could attend the March meeting instead.
Great. Okay, do you remember which date in March that was? I could just,
I think it was March 22nd. Is that,
yep, terrific. That'd be great.
Okay.
We'll put him on the agenda for that. Thank you for looking into that, Member White.
Mhm.
Very good. So I will make a motion to adjourn. Do I hear a second, please?
Second,
Thank you. And do a roll call vote. Member White,
Yes.
Member Varghese,
yes.
Member Ross Denny,
Yes.
Dr. Carroll,
Yes.
Dr. Miranda,
Yes.
Chair Rosemary, yes. Very good. Have a good night, everybody.
Good
Thank
night.
you.
Thank
Yes.
you. Bye.
Bye-bye.